Divergent evolution is where initially similar populations accumulate differences over evolutionary time and so become increasingly distinct from each other. This results in a variety of forms that all branch from an original species that are adapted to different environments.
During Darwin's voyage aboard the HMS Beagle in 1831, he made detailed observation recordings in his journal and collected a vast amount of specimens. Darwin's voyage presented two examples of species evolution with finches and tortoises, which he later described in the process of natural selection. Darwin carried out extensive research to conclusively document the process of evolution through natural selection. This research, done in England, along with the research of his voyage and the correspondence with Alfred Wallace, was critical for his idea's acceptance by scientists and the general public. In 1837, Darwin first described his theory as the transmutation of a species. He noticed that all individual members of a species vary and that all animals compete with each other to survive. Environmental change affected the genetic traits passed on through reproduction in which members of a species survived. If a new, faster predator entered an environment, then the prey that could outrun it would survive and pass on its favorable traits through reproduction. This concept was called survival of the fittest. Darwin was spurred into publishing his findings and theory in 1859, which he entitled The Origin of Species. It was an immediate bestseller, yet also extremely contentious because of its non-biblical content. The theory of evolution is based on different species all evolving from simple early life forms over billions of years. Darwin's theory consisted of two main points. 1. Various groups of animals evolve from one or a few common ancestors, and 2. The process in which this occurs is natural selection. Key points of modern natural selection are: individuals in a species show wide ranges of variation. Variation is because of differences in genes. Individuals with characteristics most suited to their environment are more likely to survive and reproduce. These favorable characteristics that allow individuals to be successful, survive, and reproduce will be passed on to offspring and into further generations if still valuable.
Genetic drift is caused by a change in the frequency of a gene variant or allele in a population due to a random sampling of organisms. It occurs when random changes in the numbers and types of genes in a small isolated population take place. It is a random process and tends to reduce genetic variation as the population adapts to the new environment. Founder effect is when a small population moves from its original population and becomes geographically isolated. The isolated population will experience different mutations and different environmental selection pressures. The result will be the smaller population having different characteristics from the original population. Bottleneck effect occurs when a chance event such as a natural disaster reduces a population to a very small size. The remaining population may have different allele frequency to the original population. The lower numbers of the population causes lower genetic variation as there is a limited selection of alleles. Divergent evolution is where initially similar populations accumulate differences over evolutionary time and so become increasingly distinct from each other. This results in a variety of forms that all branch from an original species that are adapted to different environments. Convergent evolution is when organisms that have no close genetic relation independently evolve similar traits as a result of having to adapt to similar environments. This is best shown in the comparison between Australian marsupials and other mammals as shown here. Punctuated equilibrium is a theory of observation that proposes that instead of gradual transition over millions of years, there have been periods of rapid evolutionary change followed by long periods of stability. When a sudden change happened to the environment, these organisms usually died out. This theory has been observed in dinosaur fossils.
Myxomatosis is a modern-day example of natural selection. Myxomatosis was a virus introduced to Australia in the 1950s as an attempt to reduce and control the increasing number of wild European rabbits, which were an ecological and economic pest. Myxomavirus causes the disease myxomatosis, carried by mosquitoes and fleas that infect rabbits, which then die within a 4 to 2 week span. The first few years' success rate was 99%, 3 years on, it was 95%. Then 10 years on, it dropped to a 50% death rate of those infected, which is the still going rate today.